Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught! Jelani Woods! Touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, of course, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Hoping you had a wonderful weekend. Got to enjoy some of that incredible weather. Wow. Football fans out at Memorial Stadium, a great win over Wisconsin. We'll talk about. Indiana wrapped up their preseason schedule with the final win over the Marion Knights. And the Colts, big win. As a matter of fact, Greg Rakestraw from the ISB Sports Network with us. He's got lots of duties coming up this week in addition to the Colts high school football, and he's got the first Division I basketball game of the season to do. Greg, how are you, sir?
I'm good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm not as busy as you, and I think I'm pretty damn busy.
It is an overlap time of the year, Jim. So I was telling you this off there before the show started. Last Thursday afternoon, I had a women's college soccer doubleheader. Friday, I had a high school sectional championship. Saturday, I did the IHSA volleyball state finals. Yesterday, I had a men's college soccer match and then post-game coverage for the Colts Radio Network. Today, I get men's college hoops. And again, we tip at 11 a.m. So we're the first game out of the chute on the first day of the season. Tomorrow night, I do a high school basketball preview television special. How's that for a 6-day stretch?
Can you wash my car tomorrow?
Funny thing is, as much like you, I'll be on a golf course. I'm actually going to take advantage of this warm weather and get one last round of golf in during the day tomorrow. So literally my order of business tomorrow is drop kids off at school, vote, play 18 holes of crappy golf, and then talk high school hoops for about 90 minutes tomorrow night. It's a pretty full day. Absolutely.
Well, we'll start with the Colts yesterday. Another big win by the Indianapolis Colts. This one coming courtesy of the defense with a pair of pick sixes. But winning is winning, and the Colts winning a little bit more than a lot of people, I think, expected in this semi-rebuild year.
I think that's a fair statement, especially if you had been told, hey, Anthony Richardson's not playing past the first month of the season due to a shoulder injury. You know, the Colts had lost 3 in a row. And let's be blunt, okay? The Colts weren't great on offense yesterday. The Panthers were complicit in their own demise. Of all the rookie quarterbacks we have seen, Bryce Young is the one that has struggled the most. Now, you could also question the pieces around him at this point for the Carolina Panthers. Colts defense was solid. Obviously, Kenny Moore was spectacular. But I think the phrase that you used is winning is winning. That's the key thing from yesterday. And again, this sounds simplistic. It sounds basic. I guarantee you it is, but we say it for a reason. Jim, I think there is no more important stat than giveaway takeaway in pro football. If you win that battle, you are more than likely going to win the game. And there's even a hidden stat behind that in yesterday's game. The Indianapolis Colts had 5 first downs because of Carolina Panther penalties. The Colts had 56 less yards in penalties and committed 5 fewer penalties than the Panthers did. If you win the penalties like that and you win the turnover battle like that, you're going to win the football game even when you have a whopping 198 yards of offense like the Colts did yesterday.
Yeah, I look back at the Indiana game over the weekend, and although Indiana was able to beat Wisconsin, one of Wisconsin's only 2 touchdowns came on a drive that Indiana had stopped Wisconsin on a critical 3rd down play, but get called for a roughing the passer, allowed that drive to continue, and it would go on to score a touchdown. So, yeah, takeaways and the takeaways they were able to get. So it's in the pros especially because they value the ball so much.
The timing rules in the pros kind of play to that way as well. And simply put, there is not the massive talent discrepancy, in the National Football League. I mean, let's face it, there are a handful of really good teams, okay? Chiefs, Eagles, I think a fully healthy Bengals team that we're seeing now is of that group.
They looked great last night.
Yeah, there's only a couple of three really bad teams on the back end. Clearly, it's the Cardinals, the Panthers. I think because of injuries, I think the Giants are kind of in that group right now. Everybody else is the same, all right? And let's even look back. I mean, there's no other way to describe the Indianapolis Colts last year than bad, right? Well, they beat the Super Bowl champs, and they led the team that got beat by the champs in the Super Bowl until the final 30 seconds of the game. So there's just not that big of a gap, 1 through 32 in the National Football League. So whatever the difference in the giveaway takeaway ratio is, just equate that to a touchdown. And literally, the Colts on the giveaway takeaway ratio by 2 yesterday, they won by 14 points. The math is not that hard to figure out.
You've got before I get to that, high school football over the weekend as playoffs continue. A lot of big games. This week, there was a few games that were blowouts, which was a little bit more surprising. But in 6A, Hamilton Southeastern continues to win. Westfield marches on. Ben Davis crushed Pike. Cathedral moved on. Warren Central and Center Grove. So we're looking at those teams heading for a big time games coming up.
We are, and I think as far as the 6A round is concerned, I think you're going to see two close games and two probably sizable games. I think Crown Point should move on rather easily up north. I think they're the best team in 6A outside of Indianapolis. This is not a vintage Warren Central team. Warren Central is in the easiest 6A section of the state. I don't think they have much for Center Grove this week, so those two teams advance on. But now the other two games, HSE and Westfield should be fantastic. HSE should be slightly favored. They won in a very close game, the regular season get together. And then Ben Davis and Cathedral. And there are not many teams that have, and I'll use the air quotes here, owned Cathedral. Ben Davis is that team. Now, they haven't played all that much over the years, but when they have, Ben Davis is at the better of them. Cathedral now has won a sectional in 6A. In all 4 years they have played in it. The fact that Cathedral beat Lawrence North on Friday night means that Cathedral will stay in 6A for the next 2 years. So all 32 teams in 5A were celebrating that fact on Friday night. Ben Davis is really good, as evidenced by what they were going to do in coming back against Brownsburg to continue their season on. Again, Ben Davis will be the favorite in that game. That's the game that I will have when we played at the University of Indianapolis on Friday night. You can watch that on MyNDTV 23, the IHSA Champions Network. Ben Davis is the favorite, but Cathedral is certainly good enough where they've got more than a chance to win that football game come Friday.
And if you look at, and I'm looking at the 5A, that has a very northern flavor to it with Maryville, Valpo, Mishawaka, and Fort Wayne Snyder as 4 of the 6 teams moving on in the playoff round. So it's going to be a little bit northern flavor, like I said. The 2 southern teams, there's Bloomington South crushes Seymour, and this Evansville North Castle score, I don't know if you saw it, 60-50.
Yeah, crazy game. And frankly, Bloomington South, is amongst the favorites in the South. Decatur Central's a pretty good team, and Decatur Central played a little bit of a tougher schedule, and it's just kind of the ups and downs that some of the schools in 5A that don't have many schools around them kind of deal with. So we'll see what happens there. But you're right. You talk about the northern feel of 5A. Harrison and McCutcheon and Lafayette, they play in the southern half of the bracket in 5A because so many of the 5A schools are regioned, South Bend and Fort Wayne. I can tell you this, Fort Wayne Snyder is really good. Whomever comes out of Merrillville and Valparaiso are really good. Mishawaka is a solid team. This is a deep year for 6A. It's frankly a deep year for 5A as well.
And we mentioned earlier, you've got the first Division I basketball game of the season. That's a nice thing to put in the old cap there, but kind of cool as well.
It is, and so what this is obviously today is opening day for college basketball at the Division I level. IUPUI plays a series of midday matinees. And today is part of the NCAA Readers as Leaders program. So there'll be about 4,000 students on field trips from around central Indiana that, because they read X amount of books, their reward is getting to go to basketball for a day instead of being in the classroom. So my headphones will probably stay on the entire time. Going to be nice and loud inside of the Indiana Farmers Coliseum. The Jaguars are playing Spalding. And as Jim said to me off the air, you mean the one out of Louisville? Yes, the one out of Louisville. So at this level, to get some home games at the low Division I level, you're going to play some non-1 games. In fact, IUPUI has 3 of them this year, and I'm not sure that many are needed, but that's the way it is. So it truly is the first Division I game of the season at 11 a.m., but no, it's not against Division I competition, as IUPUI plays Spalding coming up in just a couple of hours.
Well, you should make a request for them to bring you a dessert or something. Spalding, known for their culinary school.
Well, as you know, my body is largely made by desserts. I'm not going to turn that down, Jim.
I'm trying to catch you, boy. I'm trying to catch you.
Don't. Go the other direction. Start that New Year's resolution early, pal. Believe me, it's good for both of us.
Let's see. So you've got that game coming up, and then other than that, what's up next on the ISC Sports Network?
So obviously for us, it's the regional round of the football tournament. It's a big deal for us. But the other thing that is one of our marquee events on our calendar every year is the Monon Bell Classic. And so we will have Wabash versus DePaul coming up on Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock from Crawfordsville. Folks, if you've never been to this game, find a way to get there. There will be about 10,000 people in attendance at Little Giant Stadium on Saturday afternoon. We will have tens of thousands watching our broadcast through ISCSportsNetwork.com, ISC's YouTube page, ISC's Twitter feed, Twitch, Apple TV, Roku, Apple TV. We everything but carrier pigeon. We're working on trading the birds in terms of how to get to that game. But DePaul is 9-0. They are looking to win that league for a 3rd consecutive year. They actually lost the Bell game but won the league 2 years ago. Wabash is 7-2, but they're 6-1 in conference play. And if Wabash can beat DePaul, they would win the league and likely knock DePaul out of the NCAA tournament, and Wabash would make it with the automatic bid on the North Coast Athletic Conference. So this is always the Super Bowl for these two schools. That is even more the case this year. So, folks, you have plans on Saturday afternoon. Get to Crawfordsville, or make sure you have the ISC Sports Network app, because we take a great deal of pride in bringing this game to you now each and every year.
Yeah, I put the Monon Bell right behind the Oak and Bucket biggest football games of the year in Indiana.
I'm not going to lie to you, especially this year, given I don't know how you beat Wisconsin, but I put the Monon Bell above it. And again, I realize your IU ties, and I don't have those, but given the success of those two schools and what it means to those two schools, I'll be honest with you, Jim, and again, this will resonate with you because of our similar backgrounds. I think IU and Purdue fans almost like each other a bit too much. Like, as a Southern Indiana guy, I always felt that Indiana's biggest rival where I was that school across the river that I didn't want to talk about, that doesn't want to come to Bloomington to play us in basketball. The IU and Purdue folks, we get along too well. We're too nice to each other. Wabash and DePaul, nothing against the old Oak and Bucket. Give me the Monon Bell every time.
I do have to be honest that when I was in college, I had to learn to dislike Purdue because I had such hatred for Kentucky. I'll say it straight out that I just had to learn that. And even being a journalist now, back in working in the media again, I've removed the fanship. But buddy, that one, there's just too much residual left over for that one. I cannot get that out of my body.
Understood. I get you. And frankly, that speaks well to us as people, that us as IU and Purdue people get along. Now, I'll say this. Here is the sign that the rivalry is alive and well. The fact that during Colts games this year, they have this new kind of scream monitor. In other words, you're supposed to cheer or boo when you see this. IU fans have been repping their hatred for Purdue well. When Purdue gets flashed on that screen, you hear a lot of boos. Heck, when Zach Edey swung the anvil before a Colts game, the National Player of the Year, IU fans booed him unmercifully. So apparently there's enough hate from IU to go around for two different schools, at least. Let's put it that way.
Make sure you tune into the ISC Sports Network, or you follow wherever he is going to be bringing you all this action, and we'll have that for you as well. I cannot thank you enough, Greg. Look forward to it next Monday.
We'll see you, Jim. Thank you.
You bet. Greg Rakestraw joining us from the ISB Sports Network here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Hey, we've got more coming up. It's an action-packed day as always. Don Fischer up next. Dustin Dopirak will join us. We've got either Travis Miller or Casey Bartley from Purdue Boiler Upload, and Woody's got a presser today we'll have with you. Don Fischer up next, back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the Good morning, Donald J.
Donald J.
I don't know.
Am I Donald J. Trump now?
No. What is your middle initial?
C. Charles.
DC, baby. DC. ACDC. I listen to the radio broadcast during the games. I'll have one earpiece in listening to the radio broadcast because it's that damn press box is such a tomb. I call it a tomb. I would love to be over where you guys are because you've got the windows open most of the time and you get that feeling of the crowd. We can't even hear the national anthem, which shocks me that they don't play that over the speakers, which they do not. It stays like a sealed tomb in an effort to keep it a professional work environment. But I would love to be able to, back in the day, they would open those windows at the top in there, and you could get that.
You know why they don't now?
Probably because they're sealed shut.
No, because they're afraid that something will happen. They'll fall, they'll break, because this is an old place and they haven't. And I'm telling you, I believe that that's the reason they don't open. Now you could ask somebody else.
I will tell you, one of the outlets. This was, I think, last season, maybe, or was it the beginning of this season? There was like not a fire, but a spark semi thing going on, and we're like, what the?
It needs to be renovated, and it should have been. They should have had it in the plans a few years ago, but they still haven't. And honestly, they need to get it done, but it's not going to go away anytime. Probably it's not going to go away before I'm done.
And renovation is not the word that comes to my mind. Destruction is more.
Well, trust me, that whole press box will be destroyed. I mean, it'll come down. I mean, the plans that I've heard about is that they are going to renovate that whole side of the stadium.
Well, and they need to because they're giving up all the opportunity for having those suites, which is nuts. And those corners are always empty. That's where people don't sit up in those corners. So I'm like, dude, it needs to be, from one end to one end. That's how it is at Purdue, Illinois, virtually everywhere you go.
All right, here we go, guys.
30, but you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, November 6th. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, joining us, and I was looking to pull up the stats from the football game, Don, from our stats feed, and unfortunately the Wisconsin stats are not there for me. So
what do you need? I got it.
I was just going off of memory, but the biggest stat was the one with the points at the end of it, 20-14. Because I know that so many people, biggest fourth quarter crowd of the season, by the way, without question, maybe over the last two seasons. So congratulations to the crowd for staying for this game, because I think everybody could see that I go back to the Ohio State game, and while that one was close at half, very close, they still left at the half. This one, I think those people, they could feel that, wait a minute, this could be real. Indiana could actually win this game against Wisconsin. And they did just that, although that second half offensively was a little dicey, I guess we'll say. 14 yards total offense up until that last drive, but the defense played unbelievable for most of the game. Some forcing turnovers, special teams which has been a disaster other than James Evans, comes through, and Indiana gets 2 penalties for the whole game. One of those was a very crucial penalty, but still only 2 penalties. Indiana played as good as they have played in a long, long time.
Well, in some respects, Jim, I would say that maybe we saw a hint of that coming last week when they played.
Absolutely.
They played very good defensive football last week, with the exception of a couple of plays against Penn State. We saw an inkling of what they looked like at the beginning of the year against Ohio State, against Louisville in the second half of that ball game. We saw a defense that in this contest against Wisconsin seemed to come together again and look like what we anticipated might be the case throughout much of this season. Unfortunately, it didn't quite happen that way. I think that they just had so many new faces on that defensive side of the football that they couldn't quite develop the chemistry that you need, communications and those kinds of things earlier in the year. And it kind of came back against Penn State, and I think it certainly was on display against this Wisconsin ball club on Saturday because, as you pointed out, it was the defense that won this football game. And I will say this about the offense. I thought in the first half, the play calling by Rod Carey was spectacular. I thought the execution for the most part in the first half was really good. The difference in the second half was that Wisconsin made some adjustments. Indiana's offensive line did a poor job of protecting Brendan Sorsby in the second half of this ball game. That kind of had a negative effect on what Indiana was trying to do offensively. And when you only get 36 yards in the second half, the defense better be spectacular, and they flat out were, because everything they needed to do to win that game defensively, they were able to get done. And I was so proud of what we saw from Aaron Casey, the linebacker, sixth-year player at Indiana, who went out and played his heart out, 9 tackles in the game, 7 solo, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble that was critical in the ball game. So when you look at what Indiana's defense did in this contest, it was the defense that won the game, even though the offense did put the points on the scoreboard.
Yeah, and I mentioned special teams. That kind of goes in with the punt unit. James Evans has just been special. He's an NFL prospect, first team Big Ten in my mind. But he had 6 punts on Saturday, 44-yard average, which means he had a couple more 50-yarders. But the coverage was spectacular. They averaged giving up 7 yards a return on all 6 of those kicks. So, but there was one that he kicked that was a 50-yarder, but there was 2 or 3 defenders, I can't remember, that just suffocated the receiver immediately. Have not seen that this season.
Well, there's little question that special teams have been an issue. Penalties have been an issue. They only had 2 in this game, which was really, really good. And they didn't make the mistakes that they've made in some of these other games at critical times. That's probably the biggest thing. They put DeKeese Carter back there to field punts now because they just need somebody to catch the ball, because they've had a couple of muffs and one ball that one that got away for a touchdown, that kind of thing. You just can't have those kinds of things happen. In this game, it didn't. And so what we're looking at is a football team that has a rejuvenation. You can say they're resilient, whatever you want to say. At this juncture, they're starting to play some of their best football. And at this point in the season, they absolutely have to, because they've got 3 games left in which they've got to win all 3 if they're going to have bowl eligibility. And that's what the goal is right now for this football team. And I think you could feel Saturday that this ball club believes that they can get it done. Now, whether they do or not, it's a whole different ball game.
Exactly. And fortunately for Indiana, they have the schedule to do that. They do have to go on the road twice against Illinois, which I think that is now the toughest game remaining on their schedule because it's on the road. Michigan State, although they got to win over Nebraska this weekend, so that's not going to be easy. Michigan State got to win. Purdue is, I'll just say, they're hot garbage, but it doesn't matter. It's Purdue, and it's in West Lafayette, so that's going to be a challenge. So it's going to be a challenging 3-game run, but they definitely are playing with the way they played Penn State, and the defense followed that. Not only the defense, looking over the stats, 9 pass breakups. But not only that, this is a unit that is really hodgepodge patched in right now. You've got freshmen playing because of injuries, and the secondary played pretty damn well over on Saturday. And that, again, is with so many different guys in there.
Well, and again, and I will say this, and this counters a little bit of what we're talking about here. It counters it because Wisconsin was not playing with their starting quarterback, and they didn't have their best running back out there, and they had one of their top receivers out of the ball game as well. So Wisconsin was a little playing left-handed in that sense, but Indiana's dealing with some injuries too. I mean, Cam Camper hasn't played in the last couple of weeks, and I don't know.
Cooper goes out of the game.
And Omar Cooper goes out of this contest. And obviously we lost the Husky and Noel Pierre. Jordan Shaw, a true freshman, comes in, and he was I think he's the second leading tackler in the ball game. So they are having some people step up. It looks to be more of a team that has coalesced a little bit and gotten stronger because of just the fact that they've been together a longer period of time at this juncture. Because, again, we're looking at a ball club that put together a transfer portal that had 24 players coming into Indiana, of which I think 23 of those guys were expected to play and see playing time this year through the season. And we're in the 2 deep in the early part of the year. So it takes some time to get all of those new faces together and understanding the system and having the communication that you're looking for. It's a process, and it's not an easy process. But I'm going to say this: if Indiana continues to play like they have in the last 2 ball games, they're going to have a chance to win all 3 that they got left.
And I agree with you. I have in our staff picks at thehoosier.com, I have not picked them to win this year other than the 2 games that they won. I didn't pick them to win in this only because I had it a close game, but I didn't yet have the confidence in the decision making at critical times during the game, but that did not come to be. So Indiana now with a shot at bowl eligibility, and I promise you that is not something I thought I'd be able to say at this point. Rushing still a problem for Indiana. You mentioned it in the second half, and I saw the same thing. The offensive line, I don't know if it was an adjustment or if they got worn down, but definitely did not perform like they did in the first half. And you look at Indiana had 41 rushing attempts versus the 28 for Wisconsin, but yet the Badgers outrush Indiana by 25 yards. That's something that they've got to get shored up a little bit. Other than that, they just need to do what they've been doing.
Yeah, this is a football team. Like I said, I think that the big key right now for this football team is to stay together and just continue the uplift or the upward trend for the offensive side of the football. If they can get that offensive line, because again, I think that's always been the biggest question mark at IU, offensive line play. They've been doing a decent job. They certainly did a nice job in the first half, but they've got to play 60 minutes of football. And when they're on the field, they've got to produce. And thank God for Donovan McCulley of late, because that guy continues to impress me. He's having a spectacular year in some respects. That catch that he made for the touchdown was absolutely unbelievable. So all I can tell you is right now everything's looking up for Indiana football. And hopefully we can say the same thing next week, because if they get beat, we won't be talking about that any longer. Nevertheless, you're still looking at a team that could win a couple more ball games as the season progresses here at the end.
Absolutely. Switching over to the hardwood, Indiana wrapped up their preseason, if you will, with their second and final exhibition game against the Marion Knights. And the irony of playing the Knights on that day, as Bob Knight was honored at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. But they win 94-61. And this was a very different game than the first game against UIndy, in which they came out really lackadaisical and not looking very cohesive offensively, and were down 27-25 at the half. This one was a big difference. They were leading, I forget what the halftime score was, 49-35 or something.
Right, that's what it was.
But they were playing a lot better, other than Marion was able to hit a bunch of three-pointers, 9 of 20 in the first half. But, man, in that second half, there was a stretch where they held the Knights to 0 of 9 for their first 9 three-point attempts in that game.
Well, the thing that impresses me about this group right now is the fact that they are getting up and down the floor at such a high pace. I mean, they scored 28 fast break points against UIndy, a team that was very athletic and quick and strong, and against Marion, a team that was, I think, very quick, and I don't know how athletic they were, but they were really a quick ball club, and shot the lights out in the first half from 3-point range to stay in the ball game. But right now, Indiana has had 27 and 28 fast break points in the respective 2 ball games that they played, which indicates that Mike has got a team that likes to run with the basketball, and it's impressive the way they do it. They've got the length. They've got the rebounding ability to be good in that regard, even though they didn't dominate the boards in this contest. 36-34 is what they won it by. But to be able to score 27 points in fast break points and not give up a fast break basket would indicate that you've got a pretty athletic and quick basketball team. And I think Mike has always talked about he wants long, lanky guys. He's got that now with this team. It's going to be a different look this year for IU basketball. I don't think there's any question about it. And he wants to play 10 guys. He wants to have 2 groups, two different units that he can put in the ball game. And it looks to me like he's got a chance to make that happen. I'm not sure we're going to get 10 guys, but I think there are 9 that he feels comfortable putting in the ball game. And even the 10th guy, Anthony Leal, at this point, I think he believes can help him, because Anthony's been around so long, or around the Indiana basketball for so long.
And I want to point this out. Kalel Ware, Malik Renew, Mackenzie Mbako, 3 bigs. Mackenzie's not really considered a big. He's a wing, but I'm going to throw him in this category. They were 6 of 9 from behind the arc, Don. That's a 7-footer, and your big Malik Renew. They're going to be drawing guys out because if they can show, and Malik looked like he was shooting free throws from out there. I'll be honest with you. It looks so smooth. That is going to be an added weapon that will be huge for that basketball team.
Well, that's been the thing that's been missing from Indiana basketball for a long time now, is three-point shooters. And we know Galloway can knock down threes. He hardly took what did he take? I got to look here. He was 0 for 1. He took 1 3-pointer in the game. I mean,
wide open one at that.
Yeah, and didn't make it. But Trey Galloway was a 50% shooter from 3-point range last year. He didn't shoot many, but he did shoot enough that you knew that he was going to be a danger to another ball club. But Indiana has been missing that 3-point shot for a long time. And I think this team has guys that can make threes. They are not afraid to shoot them. CJ Gunn's never seen a shot he didn't like, as everybody knows. And if he gets hot, I think he can really help Indiana as well. But at this juncture, this is a team that's got a long way to go. There's still a lot of new faces. The chemistry is looking good. At least it did in the second exhibition game. We'll see how it plays out against Florida Gulf Coast tomorrow night. but it's a ball club that has a lot of potential, and potential doesn't mean anything. You got to prove it. But at the same time, you can see that there's a talent level there that Indiana has right now and a bunch of guys that if this thing comes together, they could make this a special year.
Yeah, even Caleb Banks, he put up 4 from behind the arc. He hit 2 of those. And also at the free throw line, as a team, they shot 84%, 21 of 25. That's something that they've got to have as well. Don, cannot thank you enough as always, man. Looking forward to it. I'm sure I'll see you tonight out at the Chop Shop, where you will be hosting Inside Indiana Men's Basketball. The women's basketball is on before. Mike Woodson there as well. So there you go.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you having me, bud. See ya.
Thank you very much. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers. We got more coming up. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star joins us next, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hello.
Hello, Jim. How are you?
I am just peachy. Just enjoying the day. Need a
Where does
spot
this accent come from, by the way? What I mean,
I it's like the only one that I even think in my mind that I can do, and I don't know. It's stupid because I'm Irish. I'm not even my heritage is Irish.
So you're not even so basically like you're insulting your grandparents by even speaking.
I'm not even doing it right. They probably hated the Britons back
then.
Your
great grandparents are mad at you for even.
Oh, they're like, what the?
Yeah.
Bam! They're hitting me with a shillelagh.
Yes.
Boom! Shillelagh across the head.
Get you a proper Irish accent, man.
I'm gonna have to practice the Irish accent. It's
you probably will. You're gonna have to.
Or I could rather do it like oh gosh darn it. Daggone the actor that all right, he was in Ocean's 11 and now George Clooney, Brad Pitt. In one of my favorite movies, Snatch. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
Love that movie. But if I could learn how to talk like he does. Oh my God, you can't understand it.
Not English, word. It's not Irish, it's just pikey. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pikey, bloody pikeys. Oh. That is a great. I love that movie.
That's fantastic. It's fantastic.
What is the guy that's the head going to kill everybody because he's the guy running the gambling ring?
The mob. Oh no, what's his name?
He just has like a nickname.
Bricktop.
Oh, yeah, and the names they have are just. If you have not seen Snatch, you're not you're doing yourself a disservice.
It's a magnificent movie. It's one of my like most quotables.
It's freaking great. The storylines, the freaking storylines are all over the place.
All come together and Have you ever seen
all the mixing?
The other one that's basically the same movie, it's just a little bit of a twist, is called Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. So it's like basically it's like Reservoir Dogs. Like what Reservoir Dogs is to Pulp Fiction, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is to Snatch. It's just kind of like it's not a prequel, but it's basically got the same concept, the same.
Who's in that
way of storytelling? A lot of the same people,
really?
Not the big names, not like Brad Pitt and Jason Statham, but like Bullet Tooth Tony is in it. Man. Who
is this another Guy Ritchie film?
It's another Guy Ritchie movie. So it's basically Guy Ritchie did this. And
10 seconds, guys.
Yeah, okay.
All right, here we go. Catering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group. This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. It is Monday, November 6th. Thanks a lot for being with us here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Happy to have you. And could not be happier to have our good friend Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star, Pacers beat writer. Got plenty to do now. Is not laying around anymore. He's had to get off the couch, go to work. Life of leisure is over. We are actually talking about in the break a couple of great movies that I'm sure that most of our listeners have not seen. Snatch. It is a great movie. It's a movie you need to watch 5, 6, 7. I'll watch it any chance I got. Any chance I get, I watch it.
It'll never get old for you because it's one of the most quotable movies. I mean, like if you quote British actors and whatnot, and well, as I understood it, it was basically written by a British guy for Americans. Basically, they just figured it would play well for us, and it did.
It was perfect.
So that, and you have to watch Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. If you haven't, it's the same concept generally as Snatch in terms of the storytelling path, as far as the kinds of characters, the British underground, but everybody's kind of a goofball idiot, like hijinks ensue sort of thing. But it's very similar track and same concept, but also really funny and really well done. So.
The brilliance it took to put that movie together, because there are like 80 storylines that are all tied together and that all come together at the end.
Right.
But it's and how they're able to weave those in there was brilliant. The dialogue is freaking brilliant. Bricktop is just, every time he talks, I just want to laugh. Because you believe that this is a real guy. Am I going, this guy's not an actor. This is him.
Yeah, he plays it like it's coming from his soul, that basically he isn't, and that he is totally soulless and wants to kill everyone, and would in the most just vile of fashions. Yes, indeed.
Getting off of the fun topics and back to work. The Pacers tonight is Victor Wembanyama tonight?
It is Wemby night, presuming he plays on the second night of a back-to-back. We're still figuring out, obviously, this guy, how he's going to be handled. 7'4", a lot of stress on those joints and whatnot. But yeah, no, it's tonight. Unless they sit him, which would shock me, it is Victor Wembanyama night, and he is figuring it out. Basically, like we are in the lookout portion of the Victor Wembanyama, evolution. I mean, obviously, it took a minute, for him to get sort of established in what he was doing, and didn't score a whole lot in the first game or whatever. But I think he's coming off a 22. Let me see here. Let me check the box score. They lost to Toronto yesterday. He finished with 20 points, 9 rebounds, 5 blocks, 4 assists in 38 minutes. So this guy's crazy, really for real. I mean, he is figuring it out. Before that, he had 38 and 10 and 2 and 2 against Phoenix in a win there. They beat Phoenix twice. Phoenix has been playing without Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is not healthy, but that's still impressive. So yeah, I mean, he's gone from 15 in the opener, at 11 against the Clippers, but in the last 3 nights it's been 18, 38, and 20. Shooting at or close to 50%. All of those nights was 15 and 26 against the Suns. The guy is figuring it out really, really fast, and that is just dangerous for the league because he's just got physical tools that nobody else has ever had.
Yes, sir. And then tonight they'll take them on after a heart-wrenching loss to Charlotte at Gamebridge. A career scoring night from Tyrese Halliburton. They were 72% in the second half behind the arc on 25 shots. Not enough as the Pacers fall to Charlotte 125-124, which that's a loss that will sting all and out, because boy, you're gonna, especially if it comes down to like, man, we needed to win a game here or there. That's just one of those you just hate to see in the L column because of how well most things went.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, you really saw in that game Unfortunately, this is kind of who this Pacers team is. The swings of how good they can be and how bad they can be. They had a 50-point third quarter. They had a 19-point second quarter. I mean, that, like this, these are the swings. Quarter two, I'm calling it up right now just to remind myself. They were 6 of 24, 1 of 8 in the second quarter. In the third quarter, call it up again to remind myself, 17 of 21, 12 of 15. I mean, like, you can't get a more drastic swing in an NBA game for how good they can be. But the issue is they're just not stopping anybody so far. They put a lot into caring about defense, went and got Bruce Brown, have changed a little bit as far as how they play defense, but it's not getting any better. So even while they were absolutely going off in the third quarter, and they would have buried just about anybody, and if they would bury anybody, they would have just, if they even defended reasonably well, they let Charlotte shoot 65% in that quarter, and they scored 38 points. So they only really got 12 out of that, and then Charlotte outscored them 33-28 in the fourth, and you lose by 1. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton had an opportunity to win it with the last possession, ball in his hand, kind of dribbled it off of his leg, had to regroup, and then LaMelo Ball got up in him and took the ball off him, and that's the last possession of the game. And you lose by 1 point. Like, it's definitely one that's going to eat at them. But it is a reminder of just all of what's right and wrong with them right now is when they're good, they can just go. They can go nuclear. I mean, they can absolutely explode on you, but they can also go really, really quiet, and they're not defending well enough for that to stand up. It is amazing. You look at just the swings offensively, first half, the second half, but the defense wasn't good in either half. You give up 54 in the first, you give up more than that in the second. What they finish with second half? I mean, they allowed 74 points in the paint, allowed 71 points in the second quarter. Charlotte was 57.8% from the field in the second half, 7 of 14 from three. They got to stop somebody. They really got to prove they can stop somebody. And, I think they're still good enough this way to end up winning more than they lose. But they're giving up 119 a game. 119 a game is way too much. They really need to slow it down. Actually, I think they're going up more than that. I think they're 123 per game, and it's like one like their efficiency number is like 119.5, and that's wild. You can't do that and expect to win an NBA game. So they've really got to find just some way to cut down on what other opponents are doing, and still be a little bit more consistent offensively. But just there's got to be something defensively. They just got to prove they can stop anybody, and they haven't yet.
Yeah, and then some other things that in the final moments of the game that really could have changed it. Aaron Nesmith in the middle of two different things. One, he draws a technical in which that was a very controversial technical that Coach
Carlisle.
Carlisle. Yeah, Coach Carlisle completely even in the post game said that was BS. But Nesmith also misses the front end of a 1-and-1 in the closing time, and Buddy Hield had an and one opportunity that he missed. So there's 3 points at least on offensively, and then you get the technical that they hit. So I know you can't pull out little bits, but it's hard not to at the end of the game when the game's on the line.
Yeah, no, it's a 1-point game. I mean, the Nesmith technical was weird because basically what happened was he was setting a screen and Brandon Miller just knocked him over, just ran right through him like he was, like he was catching a pass over the middle, like he had pads on, and just crushed him. And Aaron Nesmith got up and basically was like, "What are you doing?" And like, "All right, what are we doing here? Like, this is basketball, sir. Like you're not allowed to do something like that to a person." For whatever reason, the refs were not happy that he got up and got in Brandon Miller's face. So that wasn't fun. He ended up with a technical, and Nesmith's like, "What?" And Ricardo was like, "Aaron Nesmith probably never got a technical in his life. Nesmith is one of the more mild-mannered people you've ever met. But he is definitely a, mess with me, I will, come back at you sort of guy. Like, you don't push Aaron Nesmith around either." So I thought it was kind of odd to call a technical on Nesmith for getting up in his face after, because again, the guy had just been crushed, just blindsided, crushed. And Nesmith is also just not a small guy and got up and was like, okay, what do you plan on doing here, Brandon Miller? And Brandon Miller had a weird look on his face. I don't know. That was kind of strange, that he got teed up for that, but it was what it was. So, you lose 1 point there. Obviously, Buddy Hield's a lockdown free throw shooter. He's one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. And, obviously gets loses a point there for missing a free throw. Aaron missed a couple of free throws. So, yeah, I mean, you look at every single possibility. And so it is going to sting them for a while. But, again, the thing about the NBA is you might remember that years down, weeks down the road, months down the road or whatever. But, no games in the NBA have the same kind of staying power that college games do. Because, you got to play another one, and then you got to play another one, and then you got to play another one. And a week and a half from now, like, they'll sit there and think about it every once in a while. Like, man, if we could have got Charlotte, we'd have been in better shape here. But all the same, then you'll have to play another game and another game and another game and another game. And you'll have to really put some work into thinking about this by the time you get into December, that it even happened. But still, they will remember it. But, there is the good fortune of being in the NBA. It's similar to baseball that way, in that you have a lot of opportunity to just start over and it'd be a new night. And so that's what they have tonight. And that's what they have, Wednesday, Thursday, if they've got a back-to-back, and then they go to Philly, and, then they just roll. It's just, it is a swift moving league.
Hey, take a chance to speak to someone in Amman, Jordan. Say hi to Fozan.
How you doing, Fozan? Hopefully everything's okay out there. It's tough in your general region of the world. Hopefully everything's cool and I know you're obviously across the border from it, so hopefully everything's doing all right, man. But cheers.
I've been trying to get Fozan to send me some kind of a hat or a shirt or something from Jordan, because, well, that has never happened. Number one, so but I would wear it on the show.
There you go.
Really cool. That would be very, very cool. Yeah. So the Pacers, though, that's, even though they lost this game, it still shows you how much the possibilities are. The fight, the drive, the little bitty things that cost him the game those are things that could be cleaned up. So they continue to show that, hey, man, they're going to be formidable.
Yeah. I mean, they just beat Cleveland on Friday. I mean, it is this issue that at their best, they can play with everybody because they are just capable of offensively going off. Halliburton is just showing how good of a creator he can be. I mean, he is, I think, somehow even better offensively, even though he wasn't shooting the ball really well until Saturday night, when he just went wild in the second half and couldn't miss anything. But I mean, just his ability to create, his ability to just create tempo, and just run faster than another team can deal with. I think Miles Turner, he didn't do great defensively the other night, but I thought offensively he had really performed well. I mean, there's a lot of punch on this team, and there's just always possibility. And so and there is some fight, there is some grit. But there's got to be sustained defense, and there just has not been to this point sustained defense. So they're going to be all right. I mean, I think they're going to be a team that's right there at the end for being a playoff team. The issue is, I think they'll be the bottom half of the playoff team, which is going to drive you crazy. But that's what a 7-8 seed in the playoffs is a team that goes 43 and 40, or I'm sorry, like 43 and 39 or something along those lines, or 42 and 40. I mean, all of that is going to be close. And so, it's going to be 1 game, 2 games here and there. But they're going to be able to win most nights. They're also going to be able to lose most nights. It's going to be interesting pretty much every night. They're not going to get blown out like they did by Boston all the time. But they also can't. If they go cold, if they're going to defend like this, every once in a while they're going to have that, but they're going to blow some teams out that you're not going to expect. So again, they prove they can beat a team like Cleveland, who was coming off of a 4 seed. They get Milwaukee later this week. I don't expect them to get just, shellacked by Milwaukee. I think they'll be able to hang with Philadelphia, whether they win those games or not. I mean, they've had a really hard time stopping Joel Embiid, but they're going to be competitive. It's just how many of them are they actually going to win, and is that going to be enough to get them in?
We've got more coming up. Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star is with us. We're going to talk a little IU basketball, football, Big Ten, here in the next minute. Purdue plays tonight, I believe. So much more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore with Remax Realty. If you're in the Indianapolis area looking for a home, you need Cheryl, and her 2 decades of experience could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the Mike, because I try to not give the appearance that this is an IU show, because it's not. We cover IU extensively, but we cover the Big Ten. We've added a couple guys from Purdue. I know it's hard to differentiate.
You could put both up there. You could put both up there if you don't want to show bias.
Boy,
you have Pacers gear up there.
Yeah, but
In
see,
Colts.
that's professional. That's professional. That's different. I'm not a beat writer or a beat follower of them. I cover them more from afar. I still cover them, but it's not like the Big Ten that we cover.
I get what you're saying.
I try to put, like, there's the Big Ten hat.
Oh yeah,
there.
I see that hat over there. Yeah.
But I'll try to get something. Purdue and Indiana up, I guess.
Get one of those RMK
license
decals.
plates. One of those license plates that has them both, a house divided or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Because we don't really talk about Butler, but
by the way, Travis Miller said it's good, better that we have him on Friday instead of today. So good thing Casey's coming on instead of Travis later on.
All right, great. Change that then.
Dustin, is the sky still falling in Happy Valley? I know you're a Penn State guy.
It will be if they lose to Michigan. I mean, it's not falling. I mean, I'm sure it's not just. I mean, they went out and waxed Maryland.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, I imagine they'll be annoyed at Franklin if they lose to Michigan.
Yeah.
I think they just look.
Well, I gotta tell you, after what I saw from Indiana, I'm like, okay. I don't know that they're just that good.
Penn State?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised that they went out and got shellacked by Iowa State and then hung over. That doesn't surprise me, because, I mean, I think this is one of those years. It's been a while since they've been in this position, that it's like they've come into a year and saying it's either beat Michigan or Ohio State or bust. But in those years past, and I got to think back a while to this, to when they were in this place. It's like the 90s, honestly, that, you look at, those are the 2 games on your schedule, and you either make it or don't make it, based on those 2 games. And if you lose those, then it's a waste of a season. And being back there is tough. And that's kind of where they are. And, so you lose that game, and then you're like, okay, well, what are you going to do? And so the next game doesn't matter. You're like, okay, well,
yeah,
you should beat Indiana, whatever. And then it's the third quarter. You're like, oh shoot, I guess we should wake up.
Here we go, guys. 5 seconds. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, and fortunate to have Dustin Dopirak with us. Michigan plays your alma mater this weekend, and that's a big story in itself. This is the first non-high school team, I think, that Michigan has played this year.
Wow, harsh.
I just don't understand the love affair with this Michigan team when they have done exactly jack squat. They're living on these defensive stats, but these are all against middling teams. And I sent out a tweet over the weekend that was probably a little harsh. I was pissed because Washington wins again. They go on the road at the Coliseum, and I know USC had taken a few hits, but I don't care. They've got the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. There's Lincoln Riley. They're still good.
Sure.
They're in the Pac-12, which is the toughest conference in the country by far, that has the greatest offenses going right now. They bear down, they get the win, and all I hear about is Ohio State's resume. And I'm like, what is their resume? You beat a Notre Dame team who has been beaten by different teams already. Washington has beaten multiple ranked teams, including the number 5 team in the country, Oregon, who may or may not be better than Washington. I'm not sure yet, but they will meet again if Washington can get through their hectic schedule that continues to come up with games against ranked Oregon State, Utah this weekend. And I'm trying to remember, there was someone else, but
yeah, they got Utah, Oregon State, and Washington State is the last 3 on their schedule. I'm looking at it here.
And Washington State has a great quarterback. They've dropped a little bit, but it's the Apple Cup. It's a rivalry game. So that's going to be incredibly tough. If there's no way that anybody's going to tell me if they can get through that schedule that somebody else has a better resume. Horse crap.
I mean, so I think everybody can say for sure that if Washington runs the table, they're getting in. I think there's zero doubt about that. These next two
I'm
are
not
really
about
tough.
getting in. I think they should be number 1.
I mean, regardless of what it is, if you get in, you get in. And like you're playing it at neutral sites anyway. So you're going to be playing somebody who's really, really good. I don't think this is one of those years where you could say, okay, well, man, you're way better off if you're the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. You're going to be dealing with Georgia. Look, this is who's getting in. Like Georgia, if they win, the winner of the Ohio State-Michigan game, Florida State if they run the table, and Washington if they win the Pac-12. I mean, I think that's what you're looking at, basically. And I think Washington could even lose it. Washington might be able to lose a game and get in.
They will not, because they're not getting the respect right now. All I hear about is everything else.
Sure. I think it'll get there, and I think things will change if, again, Michigan hasn't played anybody yet, but Michigan has annihilated everybody. 366-60. That's their.
Well, that might be because they know every damn play that's coming or know the signals and all of that. And kudos to Ryan Walters, by the way, Purdue's coach, for giving Harbaugh the blow-by.
No, that's fair. I mean, now I think they would have shellacked anybody anyway. I think this was just remarkably stupid. I don't think it probably made that much of a difference. That's my kind of initial thought, and I think it's just a ridiculous idea on Michigan's part, presumably Harbaugh's part. I don't know, allegations and whatnot to say that I don't know exactly what was done and what was achieved and everything like that, but it was flatly ridiculous, and whatever they get for that, they deserve. Before I go any further with that,
and will that happen this year?
Before the end of it, I doubt it. I don't know.
The Big Ten is. Tony Petitti is under pressure. First of all, he's got the pressure of protecting the league. That's what his number 1 job is. And getting a team into the college football playoffs or 2 is of massive importance. And I think that the way everyone had talked about Michigan, had the cheating scandal not been there, they could have, or one of these teams could have absorbed a loss from the other and potentially still made it. I don't know if it's going to work out that way because of undefeated teams. There was a great stat that ESPN ran with these little buses from each conference and how it could end up being like 9 different 1-loss teams from these conferences. That use Washington as an example. They can make it all the way to the Pac-12 championship, lose a close game to number 5 Oregon, and get kicked out, but be 11-1 with the only loss to a number 5 team. So it's going to be. This is a year, boy, that you talk about really needing that 12-team playoff. It would have been great. We wouldn't have to worry about it, but we don't, and we do. And personally, I don't think that there's. If I was an AP voter right now, I would not be voting Michigan in the top 5. I don't even know what I would do with them. And I know that this has not come to a complete conclusion yet, but there's just way too much evidence. The Central Michigan thing, boy, that looms large. Ryan Walters saying, hey, we've got proof they were at several games. There's proof that they've bet all these other games. And what cracks me up is Connor Stein's releasing the statement that no coach knew or told to break any rules. He didn't say that no coaches knew. He just said Jim Harbaugh didn't know, I think. But he said no coaches at any time told me to break rules. Obviously, someone guided him to do something. They were helping him, and there's just no way that I think you can allow that to go unpunished.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been following that close to say, like, okay, like, is this something that's got to be? Maxine says hi.
You love Maxine.
I don't. So yeah, I haven't been following it close enough to say, like, okay, like this should be enough to like take Michigan out. I mean, it's remarkably stupid and should definitely be punished. And Connor Stein, this is ridiculous. Again, like, is it a scenario where it? I mean, I don't know. If coaches feel that way, coaches feel that way. And so, basically, like, you can't go that much against. If your entire league thinks that you're basically propping up Michigan, then you probably do have to do something. But it's going to be weird if they, it's going to be weird if they obliterate absolutely everybody. And, I mean, what's best for the league is somebody should beat Michigan. So that means
I'm saying we're all dependent upon Ohio State, which is ironic, though. It's not even ironic. It's more to the point. Harbaugh goes 0-7 against Ryan Day and Ohio State until this cheating scandal is supposedly taking place over those 2 years, started at that time. Mm-hmm. That does not exactly bode well either.
It does not. And if they find out that the reason that they beat Ohio State was because they were cheating, that's going to be really bad for Harbaugh, really bad for Michigan. That's going to lead to some serious penalties, and they'll probably be held out of postseason for several years if that happens. So, yeah, no, we'll see. I mean, I can see how it's hard to kind of complete an investigation on this while the season's going on. I don't know. I got a tough time like deciding on what this should be at this point. And maybe I haven't just followed it closely enough to say what should happen. But one way or the other, I guess my general point is if Michigan loses, you don't have to worry about that problem. And I don't like they're certainly, I don't think, going to absorb a loss and still make it. So if Penn State beats them this weekend, or if Ohio State beats them in the last, Saturday after Thanksgiving, then you're not going to have this problem. If they do, you're going to have a big problem, because if they shellac them and, their margin of victories is absurd as it is right now, then it's going to be hard keeping them out, and someone's going to have to come in and just decide to keep them out. And that is going to be someone else.
I got a couple of questions, not to you, they're just in general. Who was this private investigation firm, and who initiated this? Someone had to say, hey, I don't think this firm just did this on their own. Now, I forget who told me this, so this is completely
kicking around that it was Ohio State, that Ryan Day knew somebody.
Well, I was actually, again, I hate saying somebody told me this. I was told his brother-in-law actually owns the private investigation firm. I have no idea whether that's true or not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's a problem. I mean, it's just like
I think I wouldn't have a problem with it. I mean, that's the best way to do it.
Certainly it leads to a possibility of it's bias or whatever. Like, and somebody has to, you can't take whatever that firm produces at face value, you have to corroborate it, yourself if you're the Big Ten or if you're the NCAA or whoever it is that's going to do this. Like, you have to do your own investigation. You can start with what they did, but it's sort of like, like a lot of unfounded things in politics or government or whatever. Like, you have to actually have, your people look into it and do again an independent investigation of what happened. So, I mean, it does suggest that Ohio State had reason to be concerned. Ohio State saw something or was worried about something or noticed something that they thought was worth checking into, and didn't think that the league would take it seriously, or didn't think the NCAA would take it seriously if they didn't do it themselves. Altogether possible, Ryan Day's brother-in-law got his own level of ahead of his skis or whatever, was like, I got you, buddy, that type of deal. Who knows? But one way or the other, yeah, it seems like that it stemmed from Ohio State, but I don't think that in itself, gives you reason to discard the investigation. You have to do your own. You can't take what they say and just claim that as fact because they're biased. But you can at least see what they found out and see if you find the same things.
Yeah, the president of Michigan, Santa Claus. Oh no, the clause is inserted there for you, just to make sure you didn't know. I couldn't resist that one. Ouch. I love the statement sent to the Big Ten commissioner, urging that the Big Ten respect the due process and do not rush into anything rash on this. I'm sure that they're hoping that they can get a suspension for Jim Harbaugh next year when they play Central Michigan, who possibly helped. I'm not saying that, but the fact that Connor Steyens, if proven, was on their sideline in Central Michigan gear, which is apparently what it was, somebody had to help him. I'm thinking there's no way that you're that close in the same gear and all that. That now you're involving potentially another school. We don't know that, but this could get wild and wacky.
No, it's already there. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a whole bunch of just bizarreness. Is the mustache real? I don't even know. Does he actually?
That's great.
So I don't know. I mean, I think
that would be great if there was a picture of him like the day before and the day after he's got this full-born mustache.
Yeah, no, I think I saw somebody tweet out, somebody who's on the Steelers beat actually was like, I see this picture and I have like the Beastie Boys Sabotage your video in my head. And so do I, because it's like, yeah, it's just looks very like 70s detective thing going for him. But yeah, no, it is heading in a very wacky direction. And we're a long way, I think, from knowing all that was achieved, why this was done, whether Harbaugh had any say in it, anything. But one way or another, it's just painfully poorly executed as far as getting away with it. Just like buying tickets and them being very easily traced to your account. A lot that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. And yeah, at the end of the day, I do think they're gonna have a hard time completing the investigation by the end of the month, which is what they would have to do. But when it all comes out, it's definitely not going to be a good look for Michigan.
Dustin Dopirak, Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow, especially for all your Pacers content. He's got them covered, man. Big tonight, Wimbayama night. It's lottery night almost.
Come check it out. All right.
Dustin, appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, up next, Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload to join us as today's the first day of college basketball. Purdue on the docket. We'll talk about that and much more. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the Ugly Grouper on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
What's up?
How we doing?
Hey, different studio.
Yeah, I'm at my house this week. I'm moving out this month, so I'm moving in with the girls, so everything's in shifting.
Where were you doing it?
The last time I was at the girlfriend's house. She's in Indy. So
it looked like a nice
office
getaway cabin somewhere.
Yeah.
You had the buck stove in the back, the dog.
Oh no. So that is here. The camera's just on the different monitor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was like
that way is the stove.
The buck stove, the dog just sitting there content next to it, looking out the window.
That was a good setup. I remember them.
Yeah, I took the other monitor already down to Indy. So now I'm at one, and this one points the other direction. So
Casey, I took Purdue 19.5 tonight as part of my first college basketball party.
I think you'll be fine with that.
Okay.
Who are they
also
playing?
Got Bowling Green
Stanford.
-7.5 against Chicago State, one of the worst teams in college basketball. And then I've got the under in Louisville versus UMBC tonight.
What?
So we'll see.
Yeah, Chicago State.
Wait a minute. Why don't you just take Louisville to lose?
No.
Because it's still, first of all, it's their first game of the season. They will get up for it. They're also honoring Denny Crum tonight, which is a big deal, obviously.
Yeah.
They
very well could lose.
Didn't they already lose an exhibition?
They lost
that
to
was
Kentucky
embarrassing?
Wesleyan, yes.
Yeah, so
they very well could lose. I just don't want to bet on it.
Yeah. No.
Well, Indiana was down 27-25 at half to UND, but that changed quickly.
Sanford has like a 5'8" point guard that they brought in.
Oh, wow.
He was like a D2. He played on an undefeated national championship team last year, but he is 5'8", like tiny.
Did you say 5'8"?
5'8". Yeah. Have you not seen the videos?
6'8". No.
It's the kid. Their coach has had like the last 5 days. They're like, we're bringing him out to jump the tip off. And the way I measure it, we just have to get 4 inches better each day because Edie's 7'4" and he's 5'8". It'd
be a fun joke just to do.
That's what they're doing,
right?
But yeah, like it's been 5 days of it. Like I'm pretty sure they are going to bring him out for the tip.
All right, here we go, guys.
Or one-stop shop for high-quality meats, bakery items, and now fresh seafood. Chop Shop Market and Table has the largest selection of in-house made products around and everything you need to make a gourmet meal at home. Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. I top the 18th fairway. Don't forget, if you live down there in Southern Indiana, make sure you go see our good buddy, Dr. J. Keep that championship smile at Reynolds Family Dentistry. Joined now by Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload. The college basketball season begins tonight, officially after the exhibition games, preseason, whatever the hell you want to call it. Purdue is hosting Samford, and that's not Stanford. It's Samford. They're down in Alabama. I only know that because a former girlfriend's sister went there. I remember learning about Samford then. But that's by Birmingham, isn't it?
I have no idea. I think it was by a lake. Tiny place in Alabama.
Just to buy a lake. The Boilers will get their first quote-unquote test tonight, which I don't expect that to be much. It's just I'll be honest, I have not paid attention to their exhibition games. I've missed them. What have they done thus far exhibition wise?
Obviously, Purdue started off, going down to Arkansas. That was a big game.
Oh, yes.
Sold out arena. Purdue ended up losing in overtime. The story I've been telling everyone that I think kind of sums it up on Purdue's end. Purdue, their preparation for it, they weren't worried about Arkansas. Matt Painter showed them personnel, said pretty much a stat sheet. This is what these guys do. Didn't watch any film, didn't break anything down for Arkansas. Arkansas had a lot of new guys come in, Painter was just worried about his guys doing his thing. Arkansas, Eric Musselman sat down his entire team and had them watch every Europe exhibition game from Purdue this year. Had him break down some Shaquille O'Neal tape from back in the day, how teams defended him to get some strategy with Edey. So while obviously you play a game and you want to win, Arkansas definitely took that more seriously. And I think the encouraging part, it's encouraging because I don't think Purdue could have played much worse than they did. They didn't shoot the ball well. They turned it over 20 times on the road in an aggressive environment, and they still went to overtime. Now, you are concerned because poor shooting and turnovers is how Purdue got upset in the NCAA tournament, obviously. But I think it's good that Purdue got kicked in the mouth a little bit. And they still were able to hang on the road in a tough environment and get to overtime.
And so tonight they'll take on Samford, a much easier opponent, and it will be in Mackey Arena, where I'm sure the Purdue fans are ready to start the season to get things going. What have the guards been like? I know they're a year older now, and that was I don't want to call it a major problem, but that was the weakest link in Purdue's chain last year, without question.
Yeah, I think it's a little weird. I think the narrative, yes, Braden Smith struggled in the NCAA tournament game. A lot of people at Purdue struggled in the NCAA tournament game. Mason Gillis, who's been there for 3 years, struggled a lot in the NCAA tournament game. The two-guard tandem, Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, they didn't act like true freshmen last year. As much as you want to say they were a weak point, they were true freshmen who played 30 minutes a night in the Big Ten, won the Big Ten by 3 games, won 30 games altogether. I am going to err more on saying that's a more impressive showing than just one NCAA tournament loss. But that is something that obviously happened. And, they both share similar flaws in that they're not the most athletic. Braden Smith is one of the quicker guards in the league. I think top 3 point guard in the Big Ten for sure. And Fletcher Lawyer has been. Nope, go ahead.
No. Please, I thought you'd done.
No, and just Fletcher Lawyer has been, one of the best players head to head since his AAU days. Went up against the top recruits in the country and always performed. That's just kind of the grit he has. So I'm expecting big things from both of them. Expect them both to shoot the ball a little better, not turn it over as much. Lawyer's been good at getting to the hoop. Really turn the Arkansas game around in the second half by getting to the hoop. And Arkansas is as big and athletic as you can get on the wing. So definitely expect big things from both of them this season.
And that's Purdue, of course, picked by most to win the Big Ten tournament. Looking forward to seeing how things get started. I think 11 Big Ten teams are in action tonight. Casey, Penn State, they're all at home, of shocker. And I do not see a game of substance on there. Number 4, Michigan State also playing. They're all playing it. Purdue's playing it has the earlier slot. So they've got at least a half an hour where nobody else is even playing in the Big Ten. That game starts at 6:30 on BTN. Penn State, Rutgers, Ohio State, Illinois, number 25, Illinois, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Minnesota, Northwestern, and number 4, Michigan State, all getting at it tonight. Indiana, one of the Big Ten teams the remaining Big Ten teams, tomorrow night against Florida Gulf Coast. And there's I forget his name, a kid from Zionsville on that Gulf Coast team. Maryland will host Mount St. Mary's. Iowa is North Dakota, and Michigan, Connor Stallions. I'm sorry, I don't know where that came from. UNC Asheville. That was a joke. But there's a Zionsville kid on Florida Gulf Coast.
Isaiah Thompson,
Indiana,
former Boilermaker.
Yeah. Oh, he
transferred
from Purdue.
Yep.
I did not realize that. I thought he just was from Zionsville.
Nope, played on Purdue a couple years and then transferred over. PJ Thompson's little brother.
Yes.
Yep.
I did not know that he was there. That's crazy. And I'll tell you the things that you always learn. Stephen Bardo joins us each week, and was on with us last week. And I was, that many hours old when I found out that Stephen Bardo's brother was on the Indiana 1981 national championship team. And I was like, what? So it's the crazy things you continue to learn. But the college basketball season gets underway officially tonight. So looking forward to that and the games ahead, because although this is the time of season most teams do exactly what they're doing here. They're playing these easier games to get into game shape, not physically, but I'll use Indiana as an example. They were down 27-25 at the half to UIndy. Of course, they would crush them in the second half, and then they didn't need that conversation from Mike Woodson against Marion. Played well throughout, and Purdue the same. These teams get better quicker, but they have to, because what's Purdue's first big game, you'd call it?
It's not going to take long. Week from today, they will be hosting Xavier.
Actually, Indiana's first big game that they had last year.
Yeah, so Xavier is coming for the Gavitt games. That'll be at home. And then Purdue gets a week off as it travels to Hawaii to get ready for the Maui Invitational. So Purdue's season, Sanford won their tournament last year. It's a rebuilding team, or at least, most of these mid-majors, they had success. So they lost, most of their starting lineup in points last year. But yeah, Painter tries to find as quality, lower level opponents as he can. And they're going to have 2 games to warm up, then Xavier. And then they'll get Gonzaga in the first game, November 20th, Thanksgiving weekend for Maui Invitational.
Are you going to Hawaii?
I am going to Hawaii.
I hate you. The Indiana was scheduled to go to Hawaii during the pandemic.
Fair.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was, the hang up with Maui, whether it was going to be there or not. Didn't know if they were going to move it to somewhere on the mainland, but yeah, Honolulu. It's not going to be a fun flight. Got to fly out night before, stay the night in Seattle, and leave at about 7 a.m. from Seattle. So it won't be all sunshine.
I'm playing that world's smallest fiddle for you right now, brother. Hey, Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload. Appreciate you. We'll keep the Purdue fans updated on what's going on, and we look forward to it, brother.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you very much. Casey Bartley joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Hey, coming up next, Mike Woodson has got a presser, and we'll be there for it live right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Thank you, Casey.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Hey, thank you, brother.
Yep.
All right, so what are you doing for the presser here?
I'm just going to carry it live like the last time.
That I wasn't here for that, I guess. Were you just going to hold up to the microphone, I guess?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't think I can join. I have to, I hate this.
I mean, you don't have to do this. We can just talk if you want.
No, it works out wonderfully.
All right, we'll give it a shot.
Well, we did it last time. It was great.
Recording in progress.
It makes it, Mondays just fly because of this.
Make sure you cut in before we wrap up, though, or I'll pop in like I normally do and send you a message if I need to. But all right, 30 seconds.
Eagle Point, and they have a sweet deal for all returning students, no matter where you go to school. At the golf club at Eagle Point, students can play for the rest of 2023 for just $299. That's right, play as many rounds as you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, and it's been a loaded show. Thanks to Don Fischer, Greg Rakestraw, Dustin Dopirak, and Casey Bartley from Boiler Upload. We are moments away from starting Mike Woodson's Monday press conference, so we want to get that to you here in just a minute or so when that starts, and I want to make sure I haven't missed anything.
Hey, until then, let me go ahead and share. I didn't share this on the airwaves, but I want to share my college basketball parlay tonight in case anybody wants to ride or die with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you want to jump on my college basketball parlay, I'm taking Purdue 19.5 minus 19.5. I'm taking the under in the Louisville versus UMBC game, and I'm also taking Bowling Green minus 7.5 against Chicago State. One of the worst teams in college basketball is who Bowling Green is playing. So if you want to ride with me, that's what I'm going with. And there you go. Jump on board.
I'll tell you, I got screwed in the college pick'ems over the weekend. I forgot.
Let's go ahead and go live to Mike Woodson's press conference.
With Xavier, give me like 2 or 3. I'm sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. With Xavier Johnson, what are the 2 or 3 key things that you look for him to have a consistent, productive season at the level that he can?
Just play like he did the last game was pretty good. I mean, there's going to be nights that he has big scoring nights, but I thought he did a good job in getting us in our sets, defensively up the floor, applying pressure. I think he had 6 assists the other night, so he's kind of he slowed down a little bit the other night. Got guys in position where he could make plays and get guys the ball when they needed it. But again, there's going to be nights where he might be the guy that has a hot night. But I just need him to lead. That's what point guards should do, and make sure guys are doing what they're supposed to do.
Zach and Mike Schumann.
I guess following up, Mike, on X, I know you said you're always tougher on point guards. You've always sort of demanded a lot of him just for that position. But how have you seen him navigate preparing for this season when, maybe there are fewer of those experienced voices around than there were a year ago? I know he's a captain. I know he probably had to go through his own personal journey of coming through the injury and sort of getting realigned to come back for a 6th year. Just how have you seen him approach not just the idea of point guard, but the idea of captain, of leader, of, sort of locker room presence ahead of this season?
Well, there's no doubt he's grown. I think the injury had a lot to do with it because it humbles you. When you get hurt and don't know what direction you're going to go and how quickly you can get back on the floor to play, it humbles you. And it's an eye-opener. And, he basically hadn't really played since, I think, 6-7 games in last season. So, the fact that he put the work in to get back, mentally I think he's in a better place to lead. That's why I made him the captain. And having that title, it bears a lot of responsibilities, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, are you willing to accept it and do all the necessary things on and off the court to help, this team win? Because that's what it's all about.
Mike, then Jim Coyle.
Yeah, Coach, in the exhibitions, we saw Renew and Ware both make three-pointers. How important is that to this team? Have you seen enough in the fall to expect that they can consistently do that?
Only time will tell. You can't predict, what teams. I coached a New York team that had all three-point shooters, and they were all great over their careers and knocking them down. So I knew what I was going to get. You have no idea what you're going to get yet. Only time will tell.
Jim, then Tom Brew.
Coach, kind of following up on that, I was going to ask, what does it do to an offense when you have guys like Kel'el Ware and Malik Renew, who are bigs and usually playing in the paint area, but they can step out and hit the three and have to be respected to do that? What does that give your offense as far as a variety, and what does it do to force defenses to adjust?
Well, it's a bonus because, again, all the years that I coached in the pros, Al Horford was the only guy that could step out and make up to about a 17, 18-foot shot. And as his career went along, he extended his shot to be able to consistently make threes when he shot them. He's the only center that I've had. I take back that Amari Stoudemire could step out and make it up to 18 to 20 feet. And beyond that, he just never really shot them. But he was never around long enough and healthy enough to see him in a full season. So this is new again for me because these two guys can't, stretch it to the three-point line. But again, I'm not one of those coaches that consistently want my bigs. If they're open and got a good look, I'm not opposed to them taking that shot and knocking it down. But bigs supposed to play inside too. I don't want them thinking they got to live on just shooting three-point shots, because for me, that's not the way the game should be played.
Tom, then Mason.
Mike, you got a freshman point guard in Gabe Cups. Have you seen enough of him through the summer and through the exhibition games to know that you can go ahead and trust him with some quality minutes as we get rolling here in some big games?
There's no doubt he's going to play quality minutes. He's proven that. That's the reason why we recruited him. He just does all the little things that, you're supposed to do. Now, he's going to have his ups and downs based on matchups and things of that nature, but he's a tough competitor, and sometimes toughness gets you through it. So I'm very pleased, with his progress, and hope that he just continues to grow and learn the college game, because he's got a long way to go.
Mason and Daniel.
Mike, kind of going off that theme, but really talking more about the entire second unit, how often do you see your starters ramping up minutes, and how big of a portion of the minutes do you still see your second unit getting as you get more into the regular season?
I just like the way we've been playing, here of late, and it's kind of how I put it together. And the second unit, they're going to play. I feel good about our second unit, but they're going to have to produce. I'm not playing the guys that's going to produce and play. And they've shown it and earned my respect in terms of earning minutes, and they're going to play. And they're playing well, they'll be in there a while. If they're not, then, we have to juggle and try to find, guys that are playing well together to help us win. That's what team is all about.
Daniel Lenzon.
With all the fresh faces you had this year, I'm just wondering what you feel like you learned about your team against UND and then last Friday as well.
Well, I mean, again, I'm still learning. We got a long way to go, guys. I mean, that was just 2 exhibition games. You learn more as the season go on. So it's, my thing is we've done a lot of good things in those 2 exhibition games based on all the things that we've thrown at these guys. And, the fact that they picked up what we've given them, is promising. But again, only time will tell, man. We got a long way to go in terms of, our schedule and, the teams that we plan, and it starts, tomorrow night. I mean, Florida Gulf Coast is a good basketball team, so we got to come ready to compete and put in a 40-minute ball game.
Zion, then Alex Bozic.
Mike, just following up on that, coming out of those exhibition games, what is something that you think really will have to improve as the actual regular season starts tomorrow?
Well, again, we're not really familiar yet with our defensive rotations on the back side of our defense. That's something that, we got to get better, and then we got to rebound the ball better. I mean, that's huge in a defensive possession. We play a good defensive possession, and then we don't block out somebody ball watching. And, their guy comes in and keeps it, keep it alive for, their team. So we just got to there are a number of things. Offensively, our execution in the half-court game has got to improve. So, I mean, and we just got to keep working at it, man, because that's the only way you can fix it is practice and continue to work and get familiar with what we're trying to get done and rehearse it over and over and over and over again until you get it right.
Alex, last one.
Coach, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. I know Ja'Kai Newton was somebody that you were really excited about when you were able to sign him, and he's obviously had a tough go of things with the injury situation. How's he doing? How will it be determined whether or not, what the path forward is for him? And with a young guy like that going through an injury situation, how do you keep him engaged in practice and keep his spirits high when he's obviously going through some tough times with the injury?
Well, early on, he was struggling because he was hurt and he just didn't feel like he was a part of it. But he's kind of grown past that now, and because he's starting to move around a little bit. He ran a little bit on the treadmill. He's been able to come out and walk through. He hadn't done a whole lot of the walk-through stuff, but, the stretching and the warm-up stuff prior to us actually getting going on the court, he's been a part of that. So, I mean, I think he's moving in the right direction. How quickly he comes back, only time will tell. And then we got to make a decision on what, we're going to do with him. Is he healthy enough to play, when he comes back? If not, you might have to think about red shirt and things of that nature. We hadn't even talked about that. But, that's on the back burner if that may occur. So we just got to let nature take its course. He's got to continue to just work and rehab like he's been doing because I bought him in just like Cup because I truly like his toughness and the things that he can do on both ends of the floor. And we just haven't been able to get him out there to give him an opportunity to showcase it.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a good day.
That's going to wrap up the Mike Woodson press conference. Glad we could grab that for you and have that is a weekly presser talking about the health. You heard him talk about Ja'Kai Newton there. That's a question a lot of people have been asking. And I just, red shirt is a term you don't hear anymore with all the transfers and it's just funny to hear that term. But, it's still something that has to happen when you have guys that get injured, especially before the season starts. So a red shirt is a possibility. And Ja'Kai Newton, that's an important piece. It would have been really, really interesting to see what he would have brought to this team because next year's team's going to be different. But if he could have played with this team, he would have added depth. Who knows what he would have added until we actually see it. But I think it would have been a very, very positive thing. This is a guy who has great confidence in himself and his game. So it's a shame that he's not going to, but we've seen that many times, how injuries affect a team's season. But this at least happened before the season, so it's not like it's in the middle where you have to make adjustments. So they make that adjustment prior to Indiana kicking off their season tomorrow night. As I mentioned earlier, college basketball starting today. Florida Gulf Coast comes into the Simon Scott Assembly Hall tomorrow for a contest, and Indiana will get their first official game. What do you think? What are your thoughts? What did you think about what you saw in the Marion game? Indiana played, like I said, I did a post-game wrap-up. The defense was markedly different from the get-go. They forced, I think, 3 shot clock violations. There were 2 others that they basically forced. They just threw the ball up. Marion did knock down 19 of 23 pointers, but they were working hard to get those, and that was the only thing that they were able to get. But even though that they were doing that, and Indiana was not putting up a ton of threes, Indiana led comfortably at the half, 49-35. They were shooting well over 50% from the field and would actually complete that or increase that as the game wore on. But their three-point shooting was also something to note. As I said earlier, and asked Mike about it, having a 7-footer be able to stand out there and knock down a three-pointer, although that's not going to be, a key part of his game or the key part of the offense. Hey, if he draws the defender, that makes a difference. If Malik Renew, you have to respect if he shows he can do that and they show that they can do that in games, well, the defense has to respect that. And that changes the interior, changes the paint. It opens it up for guards to penetrate. It just does so many different things. So this Indiana team, while you lost 2 great players and most of your offense, they've added a variety of things that they just simply didn't have last year. And we'll see how that goes as it increases to get better. And that's the thing. You've got to allow them to grow and get better. It's basically a new team. Yeah, you've got X back. Yeah, you got Trey Galloway back. Yeah, you've got CJ Gunn back, Caleb Banks. But X is kind of an X factor. We've seen him just be very relaxed and not force things too much this year. He doesn't have to. He's got a wealth of things around him. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I know everybody loves Trey Galloway, but I'm still looking for what does he really bring to the team in play. Offensively, I don't know what that is. Defensively, I think that he plays okay, but it's not that he can't be, that someone else can't play just as well. Indiana's weakest spot is at the 2. To be honest with you, they to me, they're just a little weak there. And that's going to have to be improved. Not saying it can't, but to be a team that finishes as high as, say, 4th in the Big Ten, that's where they're going to have to improve. I think Hillel Ware I think he will ultimately end up being the leading scorer. I did something with Tyler Smith. He's got a story. It's either out or coming out. And part of it was asking, all right, who's going to be the leading scorer? What's their final record going to be? Big Ten position going to be and postseason play. Just prognosticating out. I put them at 4th in the Big Ten, which is a little ambitious, to be honest with you, because that means that I think Illinois looks like a tough spot there, third, like they're going to be fighting for third. But all those spots after that, you've got Maryland, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Northwestern. Indiana is going, Iowa, but Iowa's down. They lost a lot. Indiana's going to have to get it together quickly and outplay those teams. And I think that they can because they have more talent. But is it ready to do the things? Are they the prime, not time ready for prime time players, or are they ready? We'll find out, ironically, in New York, not too far away from 30 Rockefeller Center, where the home of Saturday Night Live. So that'll be interesting. Big games coming up. Looking forward to doing some broadcasts from up there, from the Big Apple. Of course, Indiana Sports Beat will be there live from the Madison Square Garden, the epicenter of sports. Looking forward to that. Man, there was so much to talk about. Didn't get to. Lincoln Riley, USC, fired their defensive coordinator. They've given up 101 points in their last 2 games, and the 52 they gave up to Washington was the last straw. But again, you're playing the top offense in the United States. So there's that. I spoke earlier that Michigan's president, Santa Claus Ono, made this statement to the Big Ten. And then the Grinch stole Christmas because Lincoln Riley's defensive coordinator, his name, of course, Alex Grinch. So very Christmassy theme going on today. And we're not yet to Thanksgiving. Don't forget, the first Division I game coming up early today is IUPUI takes on Spalding. So we got that going for us. And the opening day of college basketball. Tons of games, tons of Big Ten games, all kinds of action to watch. If you're looking for it, Indiana tomorrow night, back at it. Also tonight, if you're around the Bloomington area, Mike Woodson, Inside Indiana Basketball, out at the Chop Shop. That happens at 7. Terry Morin is there before that for the women's side, by the way. But it's been a good crowd, and looking forward to seeing how this continues. Football. We're going to talk more about football tomorrow. We didn't have much time to do it. A huge win, not just for Indiana, but a huge win for Tom Allen. Again, if Indiana wins out, wins the 3 remaining games, which are all winnable, then the talk about Tom Allen's future just goes away because he gets an automatic extension per his contract. So there's so much on the line in these next 3 games for Tom Allen. Indiana beat Wisconsin at home for the first time since 2002. They looked really good against Penn State. Could have won that game. Just don't think that they're grown up enough to do that. The decision-making got them. But, man, I know close is not good enough, but that was pretty surprising. I guess it didn't surprise me. Maybe it should have, as much as Indiana's win last year at Michigan State when their season had just fallen into the crapper. But this again shows you resiliency. Man, they had lost all, what were they on, a 7-game Big Ten losing streak, I think? But they kept their composure. They kept playing hard and came away with a huge win. And look forward to talking about that tomorrow. In addition to that, joining us on the program, Mike DeCourcy, of course, Chronic Hoosier. We'll see what else we can get scared up for you. We'll hear more from Mike Woodson as well. But great day today. Can't thank everybody enough. Big thanks again to Greg Rakestraw, Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, Dustin Dopirak, and even Mike Woodson. Big thank you for those guys. John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. And sorry I couldn't get to more of your comments today. Of course, it was a packed show, but I've seen them all. I tried to get them all up there. Continue to post. Whether you catch the show live or not, make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. Huge. It helps us, importantly, to subscribe. Appreciate you guys again. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. If you're going, I'll see you tonight at the Chop Shop. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.